Hello, friends, and welcome to Booger Balls. I'm your host, Weston, joined by Alex, and the Profoundish podcast this week has been taken over by Booger Balls, a podcast about just gross stories and stinky, smelly situations. Do you have the stomach for it? Can you take the challenge and listen to the very end of this particularly gross episode? You're listening to Booger Balls. I think it's supposed to be Year of the Dragon. I've been seeing a lot of memes of the little dancing dragon cartoon guy on like stuff.
Oh.
I don't know what that
Year
means,
of the Dragon.
but yeah, I think it's Year of the Dragon.
Do you remember like what your year was? Because I, to my knowledge, you were born in '93.
I'm Year of the Rooster.
Is it?
It really is.
Do you know what the next year is? I don't even know. Is it every? How often does it cycle?
I don't know. Chinese year cycles. I don't know what it's called. It's 12 years. Is rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, sheep, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. And I think that was the order.
I'm Year of the Dog.
Established
then.
order.
Right.
Yeah, so we're in dragon. So the next year should be snake, if I'm reading this correctly.
I'm a slithery snake.
Oh, slithery snake. And then it'll go horse, then sheep, then monkey, then rooster, that's mine, and then dog. So we're a few years off from coming back around to us.
Right. Okay. Well.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I don't know.
Rooster
I don't
and
remember.
dog. I mean,
Rooster and dog. Rooster and dog. It's like a cat dog, but rooster dog.
I was going to say that Rooster and Dog is the failed Cartoon Network pilot that just never took off. Rooster and dog, rooster and dog.
That's as far as they got. We've got like half of a theme song. What's it about? I don't know. Roosters and dogs. This is not a good show. Can it? Cancel it.
I mean, honestly, what's the difference between that and cow and chicken, though?
That's
come on.
True. It's rooster and dog is just cow and chicken, but like significantly worse. Just like a really bad parody.
I noticed during. I'm just thinking about this now. There was a ton of, maybe there still are, and maybe it's always been that way. Now I'm thinking about it because I think about like more modern shows like Paw Patrol and like Bluey and stuff. A lot of like animals, like anthropomorphic animals or just flat out animals. You know,
yeah.
That I don't know if that just appeals to kids a lot. Maybe they're easy to draw compared to humans. Like if it's like animation. I don't know.
Well, not necessarily, because you can also draw. If you're worried about ease, you can just draw people very simply.
Like in your own style.
Narratively,
yeah.
Right. Narratively speaking, animals have appeared like before there was TV and movies and stuff, like in narrative, and whether or not the written language, like written stories or even oral stories, narrative for a long time has incorporated animals to typically symbolize or represent certain features. So there's a reason why when we think, oh yeah, a cunning and sly fox, right? There's a reason we think that, because narratively speaking, we've been telling stories as a species about like foxes representing cunning. So if we're going to create a story and I've got like a family of animals and like knock, knock, knock on the door, this fox is trying to sell you vacuums, right? We know that they're up to something because it's a fox. You know, there's a reason we do that. So I think it's just an ancient human tradition to connect a lot of our narratives to animals, actually.
I don't know why I went to this, but I'm going to go there, buddy. Elephants. Yeah. Don't elephants represent like peace or something, you know, it's tranquility, something like that, right? Like calmness.
I think they're usually very wise. I think elephants are usually wise and intelligent. That's where the whole like an elephant never forgets comes from. So elephants are usually like the elders, the intelligent, wise. They have advice to give. I think that's what it's. Elephants are known to be clever animals, and you can show their intellectual prowess via the word intelligent. Blah blah blah. Yeah. So usually kind of like intelligent and clever.
So more wise, okay, and clever and stuff. Okay. I was just curious. I don't know why I had that. But yeah, I guess the fox thing makes sense. But here's what we're here to do today, everybody. We're here to break those conventions. And Weston and I are going to make a TV show
Okay.
about a fox that isn't sly
A dumb fox.
and change the word for that because it's going to be a dumb elephant. And then it's going to be a fox that is...
It's
I guess it could just be a dumb elephant and a dumb fox.
But an ignorant elephant.
An ignorant elephant, okay.
I don't know.
Dumb fox! Ignorant elephant! Actually, I kind of like the sound
works.
of ignorant elephant.
Yeah, there's so many syllables, but they kind of match each other. It kind of works.
Ooh, I kind of like ignorant elephant. Oh, we're getting somewhere. Where's my notepad here? Hold on. Ignorant elephant. This is good.
This is our next
We'll get back to
improv
you.
song, everybody. We'll do this another week or two. Dumb fox, ignorant elephant, two friends.
I don't know. That reminds me of another thing that we haven't done yet that maybe one day we'll do, which is watch Adventure Time and like have like an Adventure Time book club. I just remember there was an episode of there was the hero, and I remember the like that Finn looked up to, and the hero's name was Billy. Remember that?
Yeah.
Billy. And I remember his theme song was so stupid because it was like, Billy! He fought a bear! Billy! You know, it was like he just said these random things Billy did. I just remember thinking that was really funny.
It got the message across. It listed his achievements and why you should be impressed.
I mean, if you fought a bear and lived to tell a tale, that's pretty good.
We should do that on the podcast, like a list of animals, and we have to decide whether or not we could take them in a fight. And
Didn't
see
we do
how
that
far
before,
we can
kind of?
go. I don't think we have. It's an internet thing. People have done that. Have we done that? Maybe
We've done
joked
something
about it.
similar with like one of our segments.
Maybe. Could you fight
I
an
remember
elephant? Could you?
I mean, I'd hop on top of one and see where it took us.
Hop on top? Hop on pop?
Hop.
That's a bear.
Hop on
I think
pop.
Pop was a bear.
That's
maybe
a good book. It's not my favorite Dr. Seuss book, but
What is
good.
your favorite Dr. Seuss book?
My favorite Dr. Seuss book is what's it called? Oh, Are You My Mother? Are you familiar with that one?
Was that a Dr. Seuss book? I think I am familiar.
Don't Shatter My World. Are You My
Was
Mother?
that Dr. Seuss? Who wrote that?
I'm looking it up.
Let's see.
Yeah, it is.
I'm seeing it by P.D. Eastman. Oh, it's got a Dr. Seuss logo on it, though. Oh, maybe it was rewritten at some point by this other guy. Okay, never mind. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, though. I'm seeing the covers.
I always thought it does say P.D. Eastman, but it's like,
Yeah.
Is it like published by the Dr.
know what?
Seuss company or whatever?
Yeah, I don't know, because I'm seeing a book by P.D. Eastman, but it's got the Dr. Seuss cat with the one I'm looking at is like a beginner book, so I can read it all by myself. So I don't know if that's just a part of a program or something.
I don't know.
I
Well,
don't know.
I have a second place that really is Dr. Seuss if this isn't, but Are You My Mother is great, which is Oh, the Places You'll Go. I love that one too.
That's a classic one. It fills you with wonder and wanderlust.
Does it?
That's how I would
Weston?
describe it. I would describe
It
it that
does.
way. Like that's a book where like you're a kid, you're like, oh, the place you know what's weird though. I always thought that book, because I've read literally like every Dr. Seuss book, but I always felt like it had this sense of wonder and like grandiose adventure to it. But also the book, for some reason, to me, felt extremely lonely.
Is it, I guess, mainly because, like, in most of the illustrations, it's just, like, the girl, and then... I think it's a girl, right?
It's
And
usually
then
a
she's
lot
just
of
in these big
landscapes.
scenes.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of people or things happening, and it felt strangely lonely to me. I don't know why.
I would love to... We've got those old books somewhere. I would love to go back and see that. Because I know what you mean.
My favorite was growing up was Green Eggs and Ham.
Classic.
And some people would say that eating green eggs and ham would be very gross. You know, green eggs and ham. Gross. That's gross. That's terrible. And I think that fits excellently the topic of today's podcast. Welcome, everybody, to Booger Balls, the podcast about gross things.
Booger Balls. I forgot. I literally forgot.
We're segueing hard into what this topic's supposed to be today.
That's okay. I'm glad you got us there.
Everything we've talked about so far, forget about it. You're listening to Booger Balls, the podcast about gross stories and gross things and gross.
So that's what warning ahead of time if you've got a weak stomach. It's just a warning. We're not telling you to leave. We're just telling you to prepare yourself.
Just, if things start to go a little off the rails, just understand that is what the rest of this episode may or may not be. I don't know how gross we will get. I don't know. I have not prepped that far in advance. I have a couple things for later, but I don't know what Alex is going to talk about. And Alex definitely super gross. I don't know what he's going to say.
I feel like if one of us is going to take it a step too far, it's going to be me with the gross stuff. That's how I feel about the dynamic here. But I could be surprised by what you have to say, so I don't know.
I feel like as far as our humor goes, historically, in school and stuff, you've had the more gross out humor than I have.
Yes, especially when I was younger, I was much more into kind of the potty humor, the farts and the butts and all that stuff.
Farts and butts.
Farts and butts. And still, I would say the occasional fart joke still lands well for me, but my humor has, it's grown in its sophistication a little bit. But don't get me wrong. If there's a fart, I might giggle still. So,
all sophistication out of the window. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say gross? Right? What is your quintessential image that comes to your mind when you think gross thing?
I really did what you just said and just went to the first image. And the first image isn't really a specific thing, but more the concept of green and slimy.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I first go, gross, green, slimy, and then I kind of go into more, if you keep kind of delving into that, I actually go to boogers, but very over the top boogers, like a cartoon booger, right? Just gross, but it's coming out of your nose. And that's kind of where I go. What about you?
I'm very much the same. If I form an image in my mind for the word gross, I do think a lumpy, splodge of some green goopy just substance. But it's a splodge. It's just this substance, not in a pool, but an actual almost amorphous brick thing. Right? If you stepped in it, you'd be like, oh God, no, why?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? The kind of thing that I don't know. That's what I think of the word gross, is just this amorphous idea, which I think is kind of funny because you would think that the first thing that would come to your mind would be something that actually exists in our day-to-day life. I guess you said actual boogers, but you're thinking cartoony. I like that the idea of gross is always an exaggeration. Right?
Right. Well,
it's not just when I think gross, I think, sneezing into my hands and you've got spit everywhere. You're you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's pretty gross.
That's pretty gross.
I don't know. It's funny because if you were to look at me and say the same thing, but you said the word disgusting, though,
yeah,
I would immediately have probably gone to something more realistic. I'm saying that in hindsight. I could be wrong, but I just feel just even the word alone, something about gross is just more cartoony and open to being kind of more hyperbolic, just over the top. Keep going back to cartoony. But
I think you're
even
right.
though disgusting, I think if we didn't think too hard into it, sounds like a greater degree of gross. I don't know what you think about that, but I feel like gross is one thing. I can handle gross, but that's disgusting.
That's interesting. When I think of the word disgusting, instead of green goop, I think more I'm thinking more dark, black or gray, almost like trash.
Yeah.
Like a pile of just it stinks, whatever it is. It's just refuse. I think refuse is the word.
Oh, I love it. There's something about some words too when you say them and they they just sound like what they are. And I think both words gross and disgusting kind of fit the bill for that. Especially disgusting. Just disgusting. Just the way you say it, the way it sounds. I wish I could have came up with that word. That's a good one.
Do you have a word that you don't like to hear that is like a gross word to you? Like, some people can't handle the word moist.
Moist, right? Honestly, it used to be moist for me. I don't, but I have grown. I have grown as a person. Let me think about it. But do you have one that comes to your mind immediately?
I don't like the word stinky.
Ugh, yeah.
Which,
I kinda
you would
understand
think
that.
like, oh, well, yeah, stinky things. No, I just the word. I don't like the word stinky.
Stinky.
I don't like it.
Well, when you first said it, my first reaction was, it's kind of like, it makes me kind of squeamish, and I don't know why. So I kind of understand. Is it because it's very, like, childish? Like, that's stinky. That makes you feel kind of icky, like you're a kid?
I don't know.
I wonder.
I think something about it must drudge up those associations with things that do stink. And so I guess I've associated the word stinky with things that stink that I don't want to smell. So I guess in some way that's been connected, because I'm not as bothered by like the word smelly or odorous or pungent or, some other synonym of stinky. But stinky bothers me for some reason.
Yeah. Well, I guess this is kind of a good segue from you saying stinky, and I mentioned like it sounds more of like a kind of a childish word. This fits the bill with gross. I was just talking to a coworker, and she looked at me and she said, "Alex, picture this and tell me if you smell it." And I said, "Okay." That's pretty much what she said. She's very funny, and it was basically like, think of one of these two things, like a ball pit, or like crawling through like those tubes at like McDonald's. And I could immediately smell it, and it wasn't a good smell, right? It was like the smell of like dirty kids, like no shoes on, stinky. I'm saying it, I just said it, stinky feet.
Yeah.
And that is just an unsettling smell. And I don't know, can you envision that smell in your head? Like a ball pit?
The first thing I thought of when you said ball pit, and even the tubes, was actually the smell of the plastic. That's what came through very strongly for me, is the smell of the plastic balls and the tubes. I didn't think of like kids and feet until you said kids and feet, and then I'm like, well, now I can absolutely smell stinky kids and feet and plastic, and now the whole thing is just ruined for me. But I originally was just plastic.
Implying that every once in a while you'd still find one of those few ball pits that still exist. And he's like, great, now I can't do it anymore. Alex just ruined it for me. 2024. I made it this far.
Well, I don't like, if I found a public ball pit, I don't think I want to participate. We do live in a post-COVID world where like everything that like people touch frequently is definitely feels more gross than it used to feel. Does that make sense? In a post-COVID world, do you ever find yourself like in a situation that would have been absolutely normal before COVID, where you're kind of just icked out now?
I wouldn't say that I'm icked out, but I will say that I'm conscious about it now.
Yeah.
I definitely think about it way more than I ever did before, but it usually won't stop me. But I'll think about it. Like, this is not sanitary, or this is kind of gross, or whatever. So that kind of changed everything. And at that time, talk about gross. Everything was gross, especially then. Like, anytime somebody would sneeze or anything, I mean, still, it seems extra gross now compared to what it used to be. Have you ever seen those slow-mo videos of people sneezing?
I have. It just goes everywhere.
It goes everywhere.
Which is why growing up, I was always cover your mouth when you sneeze. But I grew up with the whole, like, sneeze into your elbow, not your hands, because you touch everything with your hands. So you sneeze in your elbow if you got, like, a shirt on or whatever, because typically people aren't grabbing you by your elbow, which really rattled my bones when we went into, like, COVID time. It's like, oh, don't shake hands, elbow bump. I'm like, I ain't touching your dirty elbows. I sneeze into mine. Don't touch mine, and I don't want to touch yours. Don't touch elbows. Good God. Maybe I'm the only one that grew up with
Interesting. I wouldn't
this.
have ever thought about that.
I was like so icked
that's
out. I'm like,
funny.
we're touching elbow. I am not touching elbows. I'm not doing it.
I was one of those kids with sneezing where when I was younger, my mom kind of trained it out of me. But when I was younger, talk about gross, I would like sneeze the most gross way you could to get probably the most real estate covered with your snot because I would do this. I'd do the when I would sneeze.
That
I was one of
literally
those
just
kids.
flaps the spit everywhere.
Like it's even worse. It's not even a hachoo or trying to kind of block it. It was just and she's like, "Why do you do that?" I remember her just kind of flat out asking me as if I had the answer as like an 8-year-old. Like, I don't know. I just do it that way. Stop.
Yeah.
Like, let me feel my feelings, Mom.
Kids are absolutely unequivocally unaware of what, I don't know if I use that word right, but they are unaware of what they are doing, and there is no why.
Oh,
it's
well,
like
and they're also
kids that cough, never like cough like a normal person. They make the most O freaking shape possible with their lips and direct their cough. They are shouting their cough at you.
Yeah, it's
you know what I mean?
It's terrible. Well, talk about kids are just disgusting. That's the word, disgusting. They are gross. Like, have you ever seen a kid's iPad after they used it for just an hour? I don't know where that thing's been.
I mean,
Like,
on the one hand, yes, I have. And on the other hand, honestly, though, have you seen anyone's phone? Like, people, phones and tablets are gross already. But yes, kids are are worse. I agree.
You're right. You're right. But kids are, I mean, this a greater exception because I remember when I used to work in wireless way back in the day, we'd have people that would come in and they're like, my kid's iPad isn't working. Or like it won't charge or whatever. And there would be like some weird colored substance in the, now we're getting into some gross stuff here. I remember one time this mom came in with her kid's iPad and it was in one of those like kid-proof cases. So you could throw that thing across the room and it'd be fine. And and like we undid the cover and it won't charge anymore. We plug it in, it just falls out. There was this I can't even tell you what color it was anymore, but it wasn't a color that I would have expected. It's like orange or something. It was probably like Cheetos and all kinds of gross things, but it was like this orange gunk, and it was probably like it filled to the very brim of the charge slot. Like so of course when they'd plug something in, it would fall out. They clearly never took the time to look in there, but I'm like, this is probably your issue, ma'am. There's like a quarter inch of Cheetos, jammed into this thing. It was so gross. And then I remember, I'm still thinking about it. I remember taking my SIM card tool and like scraping it out, and just it all came out like in like a congealed form, and just fell. It was it was so gross. It's been in there for a long time. There you go. There's a gross story. But yeah, that's nasty.
I'm making a face as you're describing this because, like, it's like Cheetos or like Doritos or something, and then it's also like spit. It's like kids spit or something, right? That's what's glued
spit
it
was
together.
the glue,
right. That's what turned it into glue, and you just know it's just body fluids and some sort of what used to be food product. I don't know. That actually. And kids are gross, and I like exceptionally gross. But even speaking of Cheetos, I think it was the Doritos. Was it Doritos that had that goofy ad forever ago that everyone got outraged by? It was something like a softer crunch or something, so women could eat like Doritos without making too much noise. Do you remember this? It was a weird scandal a while back. So a bunch of women obviously bought a bunch of like Doritos or whatever it was and made videos of them crunching Doritos as loudly as possible and stuff. I think it was Doritos. It was some kind of chip. I don't remember. It was a weird scandal several years ago. But the reason that I thought of that is that those videos grossed me out because the whole like stuff on your fingers from like Doritos or Cheetos, that grosses me out so bad.
Oh my
just
gosh,
seeing someone with it on your hands.
Well, I get grossed out just by the chewing, too. Like, the chewing with your mouth open.
Yeah.
Like that's a pet peeve of mine, but it's a pet peeve because of how gross it sounds to me. It's like not so much annoying as it is, oh my God, I can hear everything you're doing in there. Please stop. You can probably see my face right now. And, I mean, does that bother you at all, the chewing with your mouth open, or is that tolerable for
chewing
you?
with your mouth open, yeah, it's like, close your mouth, please. Chewing, like if you can hear someone eating, that can get kind of disruptive once you hyper focus on it. But then you just, like for me, I try to remember like they don't have a choice. They're eating food. So and some foods are better
Right.
but are more easily consumed quietly than others. But if you're just like lip smacking, just like act like 2 inches of distance between your teeth, between chews or whatever, like just open. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if you're trying to breathe and eat at the same time. I don't know what's going on.
I would like to try and figure that one out. What are you doing? You got to breathe somehow. Maybe your nose is plugged up. I don't know.
I get it if you get to the point where like maybe you're trying to talk a little bit too much while you're eating and it just kind of rolls into one, but yeah.
Weston, I'm going to go here. Let's move forward a few hours as the food passes through your digestive system because nothing I think it's a universal thing that
everybody
just
poops.
About universal. Well, everybody does poop. That is universal. Did you ever have that book? Speaking of kids books.
No.
Or read that book?
I almost said what book, and I'm like, I guess that sounds like a book title. No, I've not seen Everybody Poops.
It was a pretty popular kids book, like when we were coming up in the 90s, and I had it. I'm sure it's gone now, but I remember the cover of it really quick was just a picture of, I think it was just animals. Maybe there was like a little cartoon like Baby too. This is a book for little kids, and it was their backsides, and then like their little pile of poop at their feet.
I see
and it was like lined up. So there's like a rabbit, a dog. I don't know what the animals were, but you do see it. Okay, that was the cover for it. Everybody poops.
It's like a dog, a kangaroo, and then I don't know if it's like a cow or an ox because it's just their butt. So I'm trying to guess. And then maybe like, I don't know, a bear or something. I can't tell what leg that's supposed to be. But definitely a dog and definitely a kangaroo. I can identify that.
But anyway, that's Everybody Poops. I was just going to say, I think it's another almost universal thing where going into the bathroom, like a public bathroom, and somebody completely wrecked that toilet, and you have to go in there now, and you got to do your business. That's gross.
I will sooner just not do my business. I will sooner put my bowels through absolute torture if the toilet is destroyed. What do people do in the bathroom? I don't understand.
I know.
What are we doing?
I know. Like we're all human, right? Like. I don't understand. A little bit of decency can go a long way. And just all I ask that people do is just look back after you're done and at least try. Sometimes big things happen that can't all be remedied, and I understand. But you can at least clean up after yourself a little bit, right? Make sure the seat's cleaned off or whatever. Take a little swipe. Even just take a little swipe of toilet paper and clean off that seat really quick, flush it down with everything else, right? That's not hard. It's not.
I don't know, but I can't get over the weird sense of embarrassment I feel like I would feel if I left a bathroom destroyed, that someone's going to come in there. They're not going to know who I am, but I have that embarrassment. Like they're going to see my mess, and that's disgusting.
See my mess.
Not that I'm saying that I
don't know
leave
why
a
the
mess
word mess
when I
was funny there.
go, but if I left, mess. Mess is a very polite way to say.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Like just absolutely. I'm trying to think of a different word that's not like wrecking or destroyed, just absolutely blowing up a bathroom.
The eruption.
Yeah. They're gonna see my toilet eruption.
I do have a story. You know me, I got my stories. I've lived a life. I'll just say that. No, Weston, you probably will remember the story, or I know I've told you, but I think everyone else listening has not heard it. So I can share this story. This is a bathroom related story, and it is very gross. Okay, so I think first thing I want to say is this: when I was in high school, if you recall, Weston, I worked at the Pizza Hut, but I also worked at a gas station. I worked at it before that. That was my first job. And I had bathroom cleaning duty. No pun intended there, unless you'd like there to be.
Duty.
And let me tell you something, first of all, there was a women's room and a men's room, and over half the time, the women's room was more disgusting than the men's room. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Not trying to ruffle feathers, but I don't know what they do in there, but it's bad too.
It's wild.
So usually, here's what I've experienced actually with men and women's rooms from cleaning them. I was going to say from going in there, but I usually just go into the men's room. But when I was cleaning them, the men's room almost always smells worse, but the women's rooms, from when I was cleaning them, would always have more of a mess to clean. It was really interesting. So this story I'm about to tell takes place in the women's room. So I had bathroom cleaning duty, and I went in there, and I will never unsee what I saw that day, or that night, because what I saw was a toilet seat with so the toilet seat was down, like I remember the toilet being flushed, but it looked like they needed to flush again. There were what's the word? There were some leftover particles in the toilet. Okay? Residue particles, whatever you want to say. It needed to be flushed again. And I don't know who was in there last. I didn't see somebody leave, so I don't know how old or fresh any of this was. But the worst part that I saw was, we're just going to call it a little bit poopy. So I saw a little bit of that on. So this is, like a lot of public, I'm trying to think how to describe it. So like a lot of public toilet seats, they don't become a full circle like they do usually in homes, right? They kind of have that break in the middle. And I remember I believe it was on the right side from me looking at it, could be wrong, but I remember it being on the right side. There was a little plit-plat of poop there. And then, I don't know, you may not remember the story, but I used to tell it a lot. There was a little bit of plit-plat on the floor right in front of the toilet. And then there was a hand scrape across the wall.
No.
Right next to the toilet. So, yeah. And I remember trying to think, there is a story here. It looked like a crime scene, okay, of poop. That's what I compared it to at the time. Like, if this were blood, especially with, you could tell, there was a hand. It wasn't like a completely perfect hand scrape, but you could tell that someone's hand kind of went against the wall because there was a little bit of poop there. So, clearly there was a problem. And I'm assuming this woman was probably a little too afraid to take the time to clean it up and go, and she just kind of left. These were single toilet bathrooms. These weren't big bathrooms. So, but anyway, I figured what happened was maybe she was trying to wipe. She slipped, fell off the toilet, tried to get herself back up, slipped again, scraped herself across the wall, and just I gotta go. And then she washed her hands quick and left. But that was by far the most disgusting bathroom I have ever seen in my life, like with my own eyes. And I won't go into any more details. It's not like there. I need to clarify though. It wasn't like there was a pile of poop on the floor. It was just there was a little bit and a little bit on the seat, on that side, and then a little bit on the wall with that hand thing on it. So that's what I saw, Weston.
I've got two poop-related stories when it comes to cleaning bathrooms, because you work at a restaurant where you have to clean bathrooms.
Right.
The first, it wasn't her fault. I feel bad. We had these two women come in. It was like a mother and daughter situation, but they were older, right? And the mother had some kind of... I've got a women and I've got a man story, so don't you worry. I'll bring it around. I'm an equal opportunity here. The mother, who was older, had a colon bag or something like that. She had a medical issue or whatever, so she had one of those bags, and they were sitting out over close to the bathrooms, luckily, and she got to the point where she needed to go to the bathroom, and some way or another, I'm not sure what happened because it's not like I was watching them or whatever. Her colon bag burst or leaked or whatever. It broke. So she leaked from her booth that she was sitting in to the bathroom, trying desperately to not be a problem, but made a mess.
Sure.
Leaking everywhere, and it stunk the whole room so bad. And of course it leaked everywhere. So there was a mess. The daughter recognized that there was a problem and came over and got me or whatever. And it was up to me to, I took care of it because I wasn't going to let I need you guys to clean this up with napkins or something. I got the cleaning tools and the bleach and all the stuff, and I had to take care of it myself. But I cleaned up this lady's colon leakage.
Oh my gosh.
That's perhaps one of the most disgusting smells I've ever smelled.
I know, I could smell it.
It was bad. And that was not her fault. I feel bad. And they were very apologetic, but they were also very thankful that I helped or whatever. That was the whole situation. But it smelled so bad.
Oh my gosh.
And then the guy's story, I remember this drunk guy came in off the street. We're next to a bar, so sometimes this happens. Comes in off the street. He never ordered food, and I know why, because he had a time in that bathroom. He comes in off the street, goes to the bathroom first thing. And people do that all the time. They go to the bathroom first thing before they order. He uses the bathroom. And I'm like doing stuff, not paying attention, whatever. Eventually he leaves. It takes some time, but eventually he leaves, and he just bolts out the door. And I'm like, that can't be a good sign. And I knew he was drunk. He was very stumbly. But I'm like, that can't be a good sign. He just bolts. So I prep myself and I go to check out the bathroom. Luckily, nothing was on the floor, but the toilet bowl was a wreck. And in the middle of it all, in the bowl, sitting squarely in his business, was his cell phone.
Oh my God.
So not only did I need to take care of unclogging and cleaning this toilet, I had to recover, because you can't flush a cell phone. I had to recover the cell phone.
How did you do that without gagging?
It wasn't fun. You think getting a bunch of Cheetos up your iPad, like USB or whatever. Imagine this situation. Not that I cleaned it. I didn't know what to do with the phone. I'm like, I don't know if this guy's gonna come back for it, so I don't know what to do with this. So what I did, I'm all gloved up and stuff. I'm like, well, I'm already cleaning the toilet and bleaching everything anyway. I cleaned the phone kind of as best as one would reasonably expect someone to do, and I put it in a bag, and I actually kept it somewhere. In a cabinet, all bleached, in case he came back. It was bricked. Like, it'd been underwater in the toilet, and it was bricked. I'm like, this guy's not coming back for this. But I guess if he does, I can give it back to him. He never did. I threw the phone away.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Man, imagine that moment, right? Like, I wonder if he was so drunk that he didn't know that it happened, or if he was... Like, he did know that it happened. He's like, you know what? I'll get another one. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I want to know.
He had to go.
I want to know what level of drunk he was. One, that he didn't even know he lost his phone, or two, that he knew he did, but just said, "Screw it, I'm out."
Here's what I love. I love the cinematic version of it. This is the option number 3 that could be reality number 3, where he wakes up the next morning and he goes, okay, I had a rough night last night. I haven't drank that much in probably my entire life. And he looks for his phone, but he remembers that moment, right? He remembers the incident in the bathroom, and then he looks for his phone and he doesn't find it. And then he just looks up at the camera and he's like, and he's just, oh no.
Oh no.
He has the realization.
And then the Seinfeld music plays and it swaps to a different scene.
Yep. That's exactly right. That's gross. To be honest with you, I don't know if it's the way you described it, and I think you might have told me off the air before about the colon bag story.
Yeah.
But I can, like, the way you describe it, I can picture that smell. And I don't even know what necessarily exactly that smell, but I can imagine how quickly it probably just completely took over that entire room.
It really did take over the room, because you expect, like, oh, well, it smells like poop, like, obviously, like sewage or whatever, but it's so much worse somehow. It's like rancid sewage, and I'm like, what what? And you know what's terrifying is that's like inside all of us at any given time, right?
Well, I know. I was thinking that earlier. I'm thinking, yeah, that's better. That's better left inside.
It's better left inside, but some part of me is terrified just how disgusting we are all on the inside, and by design, like all the gases and fluids and crap that we have in us, it is truly disgusting.
I don't know what it is either. I mean, there's a lot of like people who have like, like the psychology of it. I'm going to farts for a moment, and when you think about like, you could have the nastiest fart in the world. You're by yourself. You let one rip. You go, that's not too bad. Okay, right?
Yeah.
We've all been there. It's like, okay, it's definitely not good, but it's not too bad. But then a stranger could have just the slightest, barely smelly fart, and it makes you want to vomit. Right, and it's kind of like the whole, it's coming from you. It's it's your own brand. That's what they always say.
Yeah.
But I always thought that's an interesting phenomenon that, like, yeah, it could be not nearly as bad technically, if you want to use that word, I guess, from somebody else, but it's always the worst every time when somebody else does it and you're stuck there to smell it.
I don't know the
BO
psychology of it, because it's not, BO for sure. Well, I feel like most of the time you can't smell your own BO unless it's really bad, like you've been in a sweaty situation of some kind. But I think typically your day-to-day BO, I think we're nose blind to it. But we're not nose blind to our own farts. And there's like a psychology, a lot of people, I myself included, I've been in a situation where you let one go and you're like, kind of smells nice.
It's like, it's not too bad.
There's a weird psychology. I know I'm not the only one. I've seen this elsewhere. But like, you either are neutral or like the smell of your own farts. Typically, you never don't like the smell of your own farts unless it's an unusual fart. Like you've consumed something and you are ill. You know what I mean? So it's like an unfamiliar situation. But yeah, like you said, someone else's farts are instantly the most disgusting, regardless of their pungency. And I think that probably has something to do with I don't know what that has something to do with. I imagine evolutionarily speaking, we're probably designed to avoid each other's farts, because that's like carbon monoxide straight to the air or whatever it is. Whatever's in farts that is not pleasant. Like there's probably a reason to want to avoid that. But like you can't avoid yourself. So I guess your body adapts to like at least tolerate your own.
I wonder too if it goes back. I think I've read this at one point somewhere, like you talk about like evolutionarily speaking, where if you go way back, like kind of like a primitive thing, you go back to where, just like you said earlier, like you eat something, a lot of times your diet and what you put into your body can affect the smell of what comes out of it. And it's kind of a way to like check yourself. Like, okay, like primitively, all right, long before doctors ever existed. It's like, oh, I've read that somewhere. That's kind of part of it too. It's like we've kind of been we've conditioned ourselves over the years and adapted to our own smells. But it kind of started off as a way to kind of check to see how your body's doing.
That's an interesting take.
I've read people talk about that. Yeah.
Because that could be, because obviously, what you eat is going to affect, like you said, what you eat's going to affect like what you smell like. So if you can sort of analyze your farts, you can figure out like, oh, I've got this condition, or that didn't sit well, or if whatever. I feel like though, if you're at the point where you can recognize that you have bad farts, like, if you've consumed something bad, I feel like you just end up with food poisoning, and you would feel it in your gut anyway. But I don't know.
Yeah, fair. Well, some bodies are, look at you. You could have all kinds of crap going on in your gut, and you'll never know because you got that gut of steel.
I do have a high tolerance, I think, for perhaps gut unpleasantries, but I don't know.
They're all different guts. I think we talked about this briefly on the podcast, but I'll mention it again because it is gross. But where we, when you came down to visit, and we got those jalapeno cheddar chips.
Yeah.
For some reason, that particular brand, I've had it before, but that brand, we both slammed through those, and they were yummy. But for some reason, they knocked me out pretty bad, like the next day, and I was just, I was taking care of business a lot the next day. And you were like, no, but it was just fine. Because I asked you, like, everything good there? Everything's fine.
Yeah, I don't remember having any kind of issue there. I know I know I've definitely eaten things that I like will give me issues. It's not even spicy stuff necessarily. Obviously, the spicier it is, the like more intense your poops are gonna be. But actually, what gives my gut the most trouble is McDonald's burgers. Specifically the burgers, not the breakfast, not the chicken. Burgers. I did this the other day because for some reason, maybe I'm a masochist or something, but McDonald's is so perfect for grabbing a bite to go, like eating on the road when you're like heading somewhere and you need a bite. And
well, yeah, sure.
Every now and again, I'm tempted by Satan and I have like the McDoubles or something. And I don't know why I do this because the intense discomfort eating their burgers puts my body through. Like I'll be fine initially, but if I'm eating in the evening, come the next morning, I have the most like intestines are like just what's the word I'm looking for? Like cramped. Cramped is the word I'm looking for. Yeah. I couldn't think of the word cramped. Like just cramped and just intense pain. Like, oh God. And then if I go to the bathroom, it is the worst experience. It is just pure pain. And I'm like, what did I do? Like I'm on the toilet, like struggling for my life. Right? like
oh my God.
I imagine like the image of like just gripping the sides of the toilet and hoping to hang in there. It's what I imagine everyone else is talking about when they talk about Taco Bell giving them trouble. Taco Bell doesn't bother me. Taco Bell doesn't do nothing to me. But McDonald's burgers puts me into a life and death situation every time. And I still do it.
Okay, listen, that I know exactly. Okay. I want you to do me a favor. Hop on Google really quick. Everybody listening, do this too if you haven't seen it. Weston, have you seen Dumb and Dumber?
I think I've seen Dumb and Dumber. I think I've seen one of them, but not the other.
Oh, so if you haven't seen Dumb and Dumber, I mean that's the good one, right? That's the best one. So just go to Google, type in Dumb and Dumber bathroom scene. You can probably just find screenshots to get an idea. But I recommend everybody does this.
I've seen this scene somewhere. I don't know if I saw the movie or just the clip. I know what you're talking about.
Long story short, he's going on a date with this beautiful woman, and he doesn't want to screw it up, but he ate I think somebody like put laxatives in his drink to screw up his night. Anyway,
yeah, that did happen. So this is the movie I've seen. You're right. Yeah, he got laxatives.
Yeah. Yep. And then he just has a terrible time in there, and he's like... I think at the end of the scene, he ends up like throwing like parts of the toilet out the window because he just was so desperate because he couldn't flush it, of course, you know. She's like, oh, wait, I hope you're not using the guest bathroom because, you know, the plumbers are working on it. The line's off right now. And then he's like, what? You know, it's just one of those, oh, my God moments. But anyway, I picture just like the intensity of that scene. If you remember it, that's you after McDonald's or after a McDonald's burger.
That's me after McDonald's burgers. Yes. I don't know why it's so bad, but it's so bad.
Certain things just kind of do it for you, but then we come crawling back. I can't think of anything in particular right now that would do that for me, but I guess really the spicy stuff. I love spicy things, but it definitely burns twice, you know, as my dad would say.
I said that's not. I don't think that's unique to any one person. I think that's what capsaicin does. Like we all just get the spicy poo. So
right, and it's like the older I get, the more I am conscious of it and think about it beforehand and anticipate it. It doesn't make it any better. It just almost makes it worse because I'm thinking about it. I'm going, I really want these hot wings, but dang it, it's gonna suck tomorrow. But I want these wings. You know,
that was me with
this battle.
The blazing sauce, the hottest one at Buffalo Wild Wings. My brother and I, we're like, we got some other wings too, I think, to go with it. But we're like, we're going to do it. We're going to split some blazing wings. We're going to try them. And for some reason, I think we got 6 of them on the blazing spice. And my brother had like half of one and he was like destroyed. And I have a higher spice tolerance than he does. And I'm like, well, I guess the other 5 are mine. So I eat 5 of these things. And
oh, no.
I had never hallucinated on spicy food before. Like the world was like, kind of starting to warp a little bit. I'm like, that's wild. But while that was kind of fun and it didn't last, that passed eventually. But oh my god, what that spice did to my gut and my bathroom trips for the next 2 days. I'm like, I've never had spicy food stick with me for 2 days before. I'm like, oh, this is
2 days. Wow.
This is not fun anymore.
Was it remember, this is Booger Balls, everybody.
This is Booger Balls.
Did it change color? Was it like a little more orange?
No, I don't remember it being any oddball color. Although, speaking of that, did you ever do, what was it? I'm trying to remember what it was. It was, I think Burger King had a Halloween burger that changed the color of your poo.
No.
I'm trying to look.
I did not do this.
Halloween
While you're
burger.
doing that, I will say, when I was a kid, I drank a lot of Gatorade. And I remember, like, if I drank enough of that, it would change the color of it. I loved the purple Gatorade, whatever flavor that was. And my poo would turn more kind of like greenish color.
See, it might have some of the similar ingredients. So this was, I'm not seeing a year. I could keep Googling. But Burger King a few years back, this is before COVID, because I was going to college, and there was a Burger King in the student building or whatever that I frequented. Anyway, so for Halloween, they had, I think they did this for 2 Halloweens. They had a burger that had a black bun, right? It was like tinted with A1 steak sauce, and it was this new black bun burger thing that they were doing. But it had this unintended side effect, or I think it was unintended, that if you ate it, people were reporting that their poo would turn a vivid neon green. And it's true.
Oh my god.
It's true. It's like you would just poop toxic sludge, and you're like, what the heck is this? That's weird. It was super weird. It like dyed your guts. It was wild.
Well, because that probably started the conversation too of like, what are we putting in our bodies right now? Like, why is this happening? Weird. I don't remember this, but maybe I did at the time, and there's just been so many things in life that have happened, but that is crazy.
It was because I partook in the black burger before I knew about its side effects, and it's like, well,
and it worked. It happened.
It happened, and I mean, I could put 2 and 2 together in my head. I'm like, well, what have I done differently? Oh yeah, the brand new burger that Burger King released. This must be related. And you Google it, and you're like, yeah, apparently this is happening to everybody, or at least a lot of people.
Oh my god.
And
that's horrible.
I'm like, there can't be. I'm of 2 minds here. There can't be any way that Burger King didn't like test this. Like, someone must have eaten this in a test kitchen somewhere, so they must have known. But like, they didn't say anything initially. So it's like either they knew and kept it secret, or somehow they didn't know because whoever they were testing it on in the test kitchen like didn't have this effect. But then once it hit millions of people, there was a certain percentage of people where it could happen. So I'm like, they either knew and kept it secret, or had no idea. And I kind of bet they knew.
I was about to say, I bet they knew. They just were thinking, let's just see how this pans out, and then we'll pull back if we need to. I have another poo story. It's kind of a shorter one, and I will share the name of the person with you after the podcast, just in case they want to remain anonymous. This particular person, this might be a hint for you, may not be, but Weston would be. This may not have a problem with me telling this story. But he's a near and dear friend of mine, and we were roommates for a while. So I remember, and I know that he's listening to this right now, so if you want me to say your name next time and give you credit for the story, you sicko, I will. Just let me know.
I feel like I know who this is now.
You do. Here, type it in on... Here, you know what? I'll type it on Discord because I kind of want you to know in real time. I'll type it right now.
Okay, sure.
Just in case.
I like how it's vitally important that I know who this is.
It is.
Okay, that was my guess. I'm like, you've only had so many roommates that I know of, so that was my guess.
Right. So you need, trust me, when you know who this is, you need to know who this is. So I remember we were roommates. It was like, I don't know, 7, 8 at night, and I was sitting up in the apartment just kind of watching TV or something. I wasn't doing anything important. And he used to spend a lot of time in like the study room. Not in our apartment, but like in our complex. It had like a study room, had a gym, had a pool, right? So he would go in there and like do like work and stuff. And he would, come up around the same time every night and then say, hey, what's going on? Nothing. Then he'd walk into his room. It was a very typical routine we had most weeknights. Well, this particular night was different because all I remember was I was sitting there and I could hear like him coming up the steps, like outside of my apartment, and then I just hear the keys rattling, trying to get into the door. Then he comes in because I'm like, "Hey, what's going on, Bill?" Let's call him Bill. He's like, I can't talk. I gotta go. And he's got like his bag with him. And he's running into his room. Now, each of our bedrooms had their own bathrooms, for those of you listening who didn't know. Each of our bedrooms had a bathroom. So he ran down the hall into his room, and then I was like, what the hell is going on? And the next thing I hear is, oh, no, dang it. Something like that, right? It may not have been, oh, no. It's just like, dang it. And then nothing happened. I'm like, are you okay? And he's like, stay out. Don't stop. I'm like, okay. So I just stayed back. And then a little bit of time goes by. I'm like, what's going on, Bill? And then I go in there, and what happened was he trailed his... He didn't make it. He had a poop trail leading up to his bathroom in his bedroom.
God,
so what was happening was his bathroom door was already open. So I think, and he could confirm if I'm wrong, but I think what happened was he was already taking off his pants right when he entered his bedroom, right? So when he made it to the bathroom, he could just be there. Mistake. The problem is that I think his body, it was a mistake. Yeah, because what happened was like his butt was like, all right, it's time. So like so there was a little bit of a trail like before he even made it. Like it wasn't like completely messy everywhere, but yeah, he had a poop trail going to his toilet before he actually made it.
Time.
As soon as that ass is exposed, it's like, all right, you heard him, boys.
That's releasing the floodgates before the village is like evacuated, you know?
But oh my God, I mean, good on him. He cleaned it. Everything was fine, but oh man. Yeah, so that was just hilarious to me. It's like, oh my God, you couldn't even make it.
I love the idea of the response just being like, oh no.
It was something like that. It was like, dang it. You know, he was just so disappointed in himself.
Because at least, like, if you keep the pants up, you're like, okay, well, I'm trying to, like, expedite this. But if you keep the pants up, now you can just throw out or burn the pants if you make a big enough mess. But I can't. I don't want to, you know, if you're all over your room. Did you guys have carpet? You had carpet, didn't you?
Yeah, we had carpet.
So you have to clean the carpet, and it's like a whole thing.
He did it, though. We got it cleaned up, which is good.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh. I got lots of, actually, now I think about it, I got quite a few poop stories in my apartment living days, but maybe for another time.
I like to imagine that this is why you were the most excited for Booger Balls, though. I know that Booger Balls is the one that you've been wanting to do.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just thought about this when you said, especially when we were younger, I used to kind of gravitate a little bit more towards kind of the potty, kind of gross humor. I remember having a book. I used to have a lot of these, like, they used to be a common gift from my, like, mom. It would be, like, these novelty, and my dad, these novelty kind of gross books. Like, I'd have, like, the Guinness Book of World Records 2007, and that had some weird stuff in it. But then I also would always get these books. Like, one was, like, I can't remember what exactly it was, but I remember the cover of it. I think it was just like a gross book for boys, you know, like when you're like 12.
Right.
And the image on the front was puke. And it was like textured, so it looked like somebody actually just puked chunky puke on the book. It was a green book with the yellow puke on it.
And yellow is so much worse somehow.
I know. And I totally agree. And it was like textured, but then like there was a bunch of these other weird, gross textured things in the book. And it was just a book about gross stuff because you're a cool boy. It was one, you know, I'm trying to get at. It's like that kind of book. And so, yeah, for some reason, that's just always, that to me now doesn't sound really fun. But at the time, I thought, this is so gross and funny, you know.
That's one of the,
so yes.
I don't know if it's just all kids or if it was like boys growing up. Like for some reason, gross and funny were always equated, and that drives me nuts.
Oh, yeah.
It's like just because it's gross doesn't mean it's funny. That drove me nuts, but...
Well, it worked
was
on
true.
me.
It worked on most people. So I feel like anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, Booger Balls, everybody. This has, I want to say this because I think this is really just kind of interesting, is that we timed this. I somehow, miraculously, the episode where we did all the different podcast names that has inspired this series that we're doing, that episode is episode 19. It came out on January 15th. This episode comes out on January 21st. We are nearly exactly a year ago. That the name of that episode was Booger Balls. And a year later, we are doing the Booger Balls episode. And that's
kind of incredible.
Yeah, that was not intended or by design or intentional or whatever. We almost had it exactly to the year.
You know what we need to do now?
Yeah.
I think we're just going to say, I'm going to say it right now, because I'll be the host next week. We need to re-up. We need to re-up that the podcast improv game. Do it again. So, Weston.
Yeah.
Prepare yourself. Next week,
Ooh.
we're going to be doing it again.
Are we going to do another podcast one or just like another words one and improv something?
May not be a podcast one, but
okay.
Well, should it be though? Because then next year we could do this again.
So many more of these to do. Actually, I don't remember how many we did. I need to look at my list and see how many more we have left to go. Because we did quite a few. But
we did, but I think we just kind of picked like the most notable ones, sort of thing.
I'm going through like all of them that we created.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like just one after the other.
That is kind of crazy. Well, I think just prepare yourself, and everybody listening, prepare. We're going to be doing a new improv episode next week when I host, because I know we're kind of breaking those Profoundish rules, but you know what? It's Profoundish. We can do what we want.
We do what we want,
That's what we're going to do.
Yeah. And if you would like to listen to it possibly a couple days early, you might want to head on over and check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Profoundish. Last week's episode was up early on the Patreon just because I felt like it. So do that.
Well, yeah, definitely head on over there. That would mean a whole lot to us. Great way to support the show. Another reason why you should do it too is, if you hop on there, Weston and I are going to start just kind of doing little like mini episodes where we just kind of chat for a short bit. And you can get some exclusive mini episodes, little baby bite-sized episodes, just over there for you. And if you have burning questions that you've been wanting to ask us for a long time, we'll answer them on the show too. So
yeah, to that
there's a lot of good reasons to head over there.
Yeah, there's so many. Here's one more too. When we originally came up with the idea for a Booger Balls podcast, the pitch was that listeners would send in their gross stories and they would get read on the Booger Balls podcast. Oh. So if you have a super gross but also really interesting story to tell, head on over to patreon.com/Profoundish and hit us with it, and we might just read it on, if not literally the next episode, one of the future episodes, and we'll tell a little gross story from a listener.
Oh, we'd love it.
So
we'd love your gross stories, please. But also, actually, Weston, you're supposed to ask me first, right? Where people find me on the internet?
Alex, where do we find you on the internet?
You can find me at westonhasty.com. That's
just
my landing page for all the things that I do. I do poetry, and I do I have a Let's Play channel, and I'm just kidding. That's what Weston does. He's going to talk about that. You can follow me at alexduquette.net. That's my landing page. I'm a musician. I make a lot of music of all kinds. I have an album out called Songs from Sangamon Street. I would love it if you'd give that a listen. It's been just about at least as of the time of recording this, it's been just about a year since that album came out. Actually, almost to the T. It's like just a few days off. So check that out. I would love it for you to give it a listen. That album means a lot to me, and I hope it can mean something to you too. Another thing I want to plug really fast is my newest venture called VGM Quest. What that is basically I do video game soundtrack retrospectives and video game soundtrack kind of music analysis. It's kind of a mix of both, of obviously video game soundtracks. So I've done one for the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and I recently just did one for Donkey Kong Country, which is one of my all-time favorite soundtracks. So there's a couple things to check out there. That's over an hour worth of content that you can already watch over on that channel. So go check it out. And Weston, what about you?
I feel like you already did me. You should have stuck. You should have stuck with the bit and just did all my stuff, and then forced me to do all of your stuff. That's what you should have done. Just stuck to the
next
bit.
Time.
WestonHasty.com is my website. It's got all my things on it. For the most part, the biggest thing that I do, I have a gaming channel on YouTube called Magic Man Mo. Catch a stream or watch a video. That's lots of stuff there. We play a lot of point and click stuff, so that's definitely a thing. Things coming up in the future. I've got some writing projects, so you'll be able to find those on the website, as well as probably announced on my socials. So if you want to give me a follow, I'm also on X at Weston Hasty, or Instagram at Weston Hasty, or TikTok at Weston Hasty. But yeah, in the meantime, that's my stuff. You've been listening to Profoundish. Whatever you're listening to us on, if you could give us that like or 5-star or favorite or, some kind of rating, give us a follow of some kind or a subscription. We'd really appreciate it. And until next time, all right.